Good morning, friends. Welcome to Story Time. I'm so excited about Story Time today. We are going to learn about fairies, and I have some special fairies with me today. Before we get started, everybody needs a little fairy dust in their lives.
The fairy, and I will be reading a book today called Pinkalicious and the Flower Fairy. I want a flower fairy to visit my garden, I said to my brother Peter. I want a worm to visit my garden, Peter said. Yuck, I said. I sprinkled seeds over our gardens. Flower fairies love pink flowers, I said. Worms love mud, Peter said. I raked and watered my garden. Vroom, Peter yelled. I worked hard on my garden. After 2 weeks, my seeds sprouted. There were little leaves, but no flowers. The next day, it rained and rained. It rained for weeks. When the sun finally came out, I ran outside to see my garden. Now all my plants will bloom. There was a lot of green. Where's all my pink? I wondered. Zoom, Peter said. He drove his truck through the garden. He made roads with his shovel, calling all worms, he said. Take a ride on my racetrack. I had an idea. I needed to show my flowers how to grow. I made tissue paper flowers and put them in my garden, calling all flowers, I said. Bloom like these paper flowers. The next day, Peter yelled, guess what I saw? Hint, it was pink. A worm, I groaned. No, Peter said, a flower fairy. No, you didn't. Did you? I gasped. A pink flower fairy? Why didn't she visit me? I said. My garden is better, Peter said proudly. I looked at his garden and looked at mine. Peter was right. I had to do something. I'm going to pinkify my garden, I told Peter. Then my fairy will want to visit me. Molly came over to help. We strung sparkly pink lights and shiny pink streamers. We added a pink parasol and set out pink fairy cakes. My garden was a pink wonderland. I put on music and Molly and I danced like fairies. It was very loud, very fun, and very pink. Still, the fairy didn't come. All we saw was a wiggly pink worm. My mom looked at the door. It's time to clean up, she said. We began packing my pink belongings. Soon my garden was plain again. It was time for Molly to go home. We didn't see a fairy, I said. Molly gave me a hug. Don't be sad, she said. I sat down in the grass. A big weed tickled my foot. I pulled it out. Behind it was a pink flower. I pulled out more weeds. I couldn't believe it. My garden was beautiful. There were flowers hidden among the weeds all along. I smelled a fragrant pink flower. Hello, said a little voice. I was nose to nose with a fairy. She was pink and shimmery. She had flower petal wings. I'm very glad you cleaned up your garden, she said. Now I have room to fly. Your garden is pink perfection, said the fairy. There's just one thing that will make it better. I knew exactly what it was. Fairy magic, I cheered. The fairy fluttered her wings, sparkles rained down. More flowers grew and bloomed, making a beautiful arch. Whoa, Peter and I said. It was flower-tastic. The end.
Bippity boppity boo. Yay! Hi, I'm Camilla, and today I will be reading Fairies Are Real by Holly Hatton. Fairies are from the faraway kingdom of fairyland. Fairies wear clothes made of flowers and sewn with spider silk. Fairies have magical powers. Fairies are born every time a seed is planted. Fairies love music, bells, and sparkly things. Fairies like to go riding, especially on hummingbirds. Fairies love to eat sugar, cookies, and drink honey, milk. Fairies like tidiness and cleanness, especially in the kitchen. Fairies love to help flowers grow. Fairies love to dance, even in the evening of the full moon. Fairies live in acorn houses and sleep on beds of moss. The end.
5 little fairies playing by the pond. One fell in and dropped her wand. Mama called the wizard, who did respond, "No more fairies playing by the pond." 4 little fairies playing by the pond. One fell in and dropped her wand. Mama called the wizard, who did respond, "No more fairies playing by the pond." 3 little fairies playing by the pond. One fell in and lost her wand. Mama called the wizard, who did respond, "No more fairies playing by the pond." 2 little fairies playing by the pond. One fell in and lost her wand. Mama called the wizard, who did respond, "No more fairies playing by the pond." 1 little fairy playing by the pond. He fell in and lost his wand. Mama called the wizard, who did respond, "No more fairies playing by the pond." 5 little fairies sitting by the pond. Now they share a special bond.
Hi friends, I'm going to tell you a story today about a fairy. Once upon a time there was a girl who lived in fairyland. The girl was very happy to live in such a beautiful place with blue waterfalls and pink and white lilies. But she wasn't happy. She was a fairy, but she didn't have any wings. And her name was Pixie, and this story is all about her. She was a very lonely girl, while all the rest of the fairies were flying high in the sky with the birds and butterflies. She was stuck on the ground. One day, when Pixie was on one of her many walks alone, she came across a beautiful lake. The lake had the most beautiful water lilies that she had ever seen. She sat down and she stuck her feet in the lake, and she touched one of the water lilies with her hand. Out popped a fairy, but it was no ordinary fairy. It was a fairy godmother. The fairy godmother asked Pixie, "Why are you so sad?" Pixie replied, "Because I don't have any wings." The fairy godmother said, "If that is what you need to make you happy, I will tell you how to get them." Pixie became very excited, and she begged the fairy godmother to tell her how she could get them. The fairy godmother told her, you must travel to a lake and you must find your true love. And when you receive your true love kiss, then you will also receive your wings. The fairy godmother told Pixie that she had to jump in the lake and she had to sink to the bottom, and there you will find another forest. Pixie was frightened of the water, but she wanted her wings so bad. So she was able to overcome her fear, and she had to build up her courage. When she reached the bottom of the lake, she swam to the top, and there was another forest. It was not like a forest in fairyland. It was dark and frightening. But she was determined to find her true love. So she started walking around in the forest for several hours, but she was getting scared because she was not able to find her true love, and she didn't know where she was going. So she sat down on a rock and she started crying. And she heard a noise off in the distance, and she could see a silhouette of a man on a horse, and he came closer and closer and closer. And when he got close to her, he asked her, "Are you lost? And why are you crying?" And she was so shy. She kept her head in her hands and she was still crying. And the man offered to help her. And so she got on his horse and they rode for several hours. And he asked her, "Where are you from?" And she told him, "Fairyland." And he started laughing, ha 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 ha, because he didn't believe in fairyland. So after they rode for several hours, they decided to stop and rest. And she told him that she was here to find her true love and that she had to leave him to go look for her true love. So she started walking by herself. She didn't know where she was going, but she was determined to get her wings. The man was sitting on his horse, and he started getting this sharp pain in his chest because he found his true love, and he did not want her to leave. But Pixie was a very determined fairy. She wanted her wings. So she was walking and walking, and she was getting very scared because she didn't know where to look for true love in the forest. So she decided to sit down and take a break. While she was sitting there resting, she could hear a noise off in the forest, but it wasn't a normal noise. It was a very, very scary noise. She could hear some growling, and she could see through the forest big yellow eyes and very, very sharp teeth and a red tongue. She was getting really scared. She started shaking, and all of a sudden the big gray wolf lunged towards Pixie, and out of nowhere, here comes the prince to save her. The prince was very concerned about if she was harmed or not. And while he was asking her if she was harmed, he leaned in and he gave her a kiss. And during that kiss, Pixie started having sharp, sharp pains in her back. It was the most painful thing she ever experienced. It was her wings. She finally got her wings. but she was sad about getting her wings because she found her true love. And she knew that he was not welcome at fairyland because he wasn't a fairy. She knew that she wanted to marry the prince. And that is just what they did. They got married. And she became Princess Pixie. And they lived happily ever after.